Welcome to the latest video in the short series about the future of work from Square One Law. I'm joined by JP Van Sale, who's the head of employment law at the firm, and also by Matthew Taylor. He's the CEO of the Royal Society of Arts and chair of the Review into Modern Employment. Matthew, let's look to the future now at what some of the emerging practices that maybe will stay. Maybe we're going to be a little bit tired of Zoom calls, being glued to our seats all the time, but how do you balance the way you use technology and the way you use home working and the way you may end up going into collaborative workspaces?
Two different points here. The first is that we have to think about transition. So the RSA is publishing a provocation which says that what we need to do is to move to a stable 12-month transition period. That the problem at the moment is that because things keep moving, it's hard for people to invest and adapt because they just don't know where they're going to be in 3 weeks. So if you run a bar, you could invest in training your staff to do social distancing and getting plastic dividers or whatever in order to make the space safer. But you don't know when you're going to reopen. It may be that things move more quickly and that you actually return to normal. So it's hard for people. We know this at the grand level from economic theory, that uncertainty inhibits innovation and creativity, right? So what we're going to be arguing for is we think the government should say, look, unless the virus is actually eradicated on the one hand, or the R number moves above 1 on the other, this is how things are going to be for 12 months. And it should put in place a set of measures. And one of those would be the potential of moving to a 6-day week comprising 2 3-day shifts. So we work, Saturday is a working day, and for schools and other businesses, offices that wouldn't normally open on a Saturday, but that people work either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That enables you to do a deep clean between shifts. It helps with track and trace, because if somebody is ill in one team, they've just been with that team, not with the other team. It will help safeguard jobs, because what I'm hearing from business leaders is, on average, that most businesses at the moment think they'll lose about 20% of their staff when things come back. But if you're employing people for 3 days rather than 5 days, hopefully you'll hold on to those people. And it's much better, in my view, that we accept tightening of our belts and that government can support people who lose a bit of income as well, than that we get the situation in mass unemployment, because mass unemployment is a real problem, not just in terms of recovery, but a scarring effect it has on people who experience that. So my first point is we need a transition period where we have a set of rules. For example, I would reopen bars and restaurants, but on condition that customers have to pre-book. So you can't just turn up, you book an hour and a half slot, you turn up, you have your meal, you have your drinks, you go away. But no one's going to invest in this stuff if they don't know where the future is going to be. So I would do what a lot of businesses are now doing, which is say, look, this is how it's going to be till next spring, so let's adapt, right? That's the first point. The second point, which I really haven't thought through properly, but I think it's a big one, is how do you work? There's a lot of talk of working from home, but how do you work in a split way? So some people enjoy working from home and some people don't. Some people have jobs where they can work from home, some people don't. Being face-to-face with your boss and your manager, maybe that's better for your career prospects than only speaking to your manager through a screen. We've had a number of people at the RSA who started working for us over the last few weeks. Probably the quality of relationship they've got with their managers, having never actually met them in person, is going to be less than people who are able to be with the managers. So one of the things we've really got to think through in terms of, in terms of fairness and well-being is what happens if you have these different models in relation to the overall dynamic within the workplace.
Yeah, I agree. I think certainty would certainly be of great assistance. I've read your piece on the RSA website, Bridges to the Future, which I thought was really interesting.
Thank you.
We've been doing something similar with a number of our clients, which we've called wargaming, and essentially it's about trying to understand what the commercial landscape looks like, trying to then look at models for the business over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, trying to understand resource, trying to understand investment, cash flow, all this kind of thing, because I think until businesses have that roadmap, if you like, planning is really difficult. And, if you don't know what you're doing, it's really difficult to communicate those messages to staff and to, achieve their engagement.
These ideas of Matthew's and the team at his organisation are very exciting. As an employer myself, I would want to embrace them. Is there any need for any kind of change in the law, even maybe temporarily, so that if contracts needed to be changed, that they could be done? If you have a cohort of staff and some want to do it and some don't want to do it, you're going to present difficulties for employers. But it might be necessary legally to be able to get through these. I perfectly understand you need to negotiate and bring people with you, but is there any legal obstacle to doing the kind of thing Matthew would like to do?
So I think the current principles, Graham, probably provide sufficient guidance as it is already. You know, we might need to expand various rights in relation to flexible working. You know, I've heard a lot of talk about a right to work from home, for example. It's difficult, as Matthew said at the outset, to generalize because so many businesses are simply in quite different positions. And to legislate for each of those, you can imagine, would be extremely difficult to do. I think the existing, you know, we saw with the introduction of the furlough scheme, it all happened at pace and at scale, and there was a lot of confusion initially. You know, we have an established legal matrix, which I think probably could serve this situation really well.